So hi, it's Kara Cherniak here, and I'm here with Lori Davis, who has been kind enough to help me out with another Kinder Karate story. And the special thing about Lori's story and her son Zachary's story is that they came to me at the youngest of the young ages, and they have been with us, have moved on from our program to our next level, and so she's experienced just about everything you can experience through the program as a parent, and we're going to talk a little bit about that. So welcome.
Thank you.
And well, the first question I want to ask you is, what was it that brought you to the Kinder Karate program? What made you look for karate in general? And we'll talk about that first, and then we'll talk a little bit about the Kinder program.
Well, it initially started with enrolling my son into soccer and watching how he was interacting with all the other kids. And somebody would take the ball off of him and he'd freak out and throw himself down in the middle of the field. And I was the coach, and I was constantly putting him up against the fence. And I was embarrassed because my kid was the only one acting that way. And I was all stressed out. And a friend of mine, her daughter was doing it at the time. And I thought, you know what, maybe it would be something that would be good for Zachary. I mainly just wanted to get him around other kids because him being an only child and it was just me and him all the time, I felt like I wasn't giving him that experience. So that was the initial start of it. And then we came, and then he'd throw himself down in the middle of the mat and have a fit, and I would start getting like real anxious and embarrassed because my kid was the only one doing it at the time, and I wasn't realizing that there were other kids in the class that had done it before mine even got there, but they were already beyond that, and I was just in the beginning stages of it.
And I don't know if you realize or not, but I use her and Zachary as an example for so many years now. When I have a parent that comes in and for some reason they're just not ready, because I believe I remember that you and Zachary came and did a camp first.
Yeah, it was right before he turned 3.
Okay. So they did like a introductory camp, which is like a week's worth of lessons, and then we invite them into the regular program. But at the end of the camp, I told her he's almost there, he's just not ready yet. And so now when I have parents that happens to, I'll text Lori and I'll say, I might have so-and-so call you just so they can get your experience, because it's a hard thing to hear as a parent. And even though, I say that there's nothing wrong and you didn't do anything wrong, there's nothing wrong with him, it's a maturity thing. He's just not there yet. So I know that happened, and I invited you back.
Yeah.
And thank goodness you came back.
Yeah, Zachary actually kept asking me when he could do karate again, and I kept saying, until you can control yourself, until you can listen without interrupting. And he worked so hard on that because he really enjoyed that week with you guys. Mm-hmm. And that was like his drive to kind of get his act together. He just wanted to do it so bad. And Kara reached out to me, and I was so glad that she did, because I was afraid it was too soon. It was probably about 6 months after the camp, and I'm thinking, surely this was not enough time for him to be ready. And she said, well, just bring him back. I'll take a look, and we'll see if he's ready or not. And if he's not, it's okay. We'll just give you a little bit more time, and then we'll try it again. And she felt that he was ready.
And ready didn't mean perfect. It's sometimes we want our kids to be perfect in the class, and just letting parents understand he's not going to be perfect. He's going to have his moments, but we're really only looking for 2 things when they start. And one is that they're able to stay with the class and not want to leave and run back and forth to mom. And that second is that they're redirectable. And he had really reached that point. Yeah. I felt, and he did. And sometimes it can happen in as little as 3 months. 3 months is a huge milestone at the 3-year age. Every 3 months you can have a different kid. So you did come back, and I'm so glad you did, because I know the end of the story, so that's why I say that. But he came back, and he had his journey. And can you talk about some of the changes that you saw over the scope of, how long was he with me? Was he with me for 3 years? 2.5, somewhere between 2 and 3.
It was 3 years,
okay.
A little over 3 years.
Okay, and he's moved on to our older kids class now. But from the 3 to the 6, what are some of the changes that you saw? Because she's one of my biggest fans. That's totally transparency here. If I need a testimonial, I'm always going to Lori, because she's seen every part of it, and she knows what's coming. She knows, what's going to happen because she's been through it.
Yeah,
So.
I've watched other kids, and I've seen their parents standing at the glass window going like this, and I'm going, oh gosh, that was me. I used to do that too, and I know exactly how they're feeling, and it's just, I think it's normal. It's natural, yes. But you, as a parent, you do want your kid to be perfect and well-rounded, and you don't want them to be the one that acts up in class, and there was my kid.
But if you're reading the book, my chapters that's part of the experience, is it's a process, and letting the kids have their experience, because their experience is different from our experience, and we try to kind of sometimes mold their experience, and we just need to let it happen. And for me, it's easy because I see hundreds and probably thousands of kids now, so I know what the turnout's going to be. If you just give it enough time, I know. So I'm like that parent who's had 10 kids. I'm comfortable by the 10th kid.
Yeah.
Where for every parent, it's a new experience for them. So I understand it, and that's probably the hardest thing, is just let go.
Yeah, there was a couple times where she said, "Why don't you just move away from the window and just relax,
read a book."
Yeah, and it got to the point where I couldn't even watch sometimes because I would stress myself out. But I would watch him throw himself down in the middle of the floor. Anytime they did any kind of team building exercises and things didn't go his way, he was having a fit, and then I'm thinking, oh gosh, this is never going to get better. And I contemplated maybe he's just too disruptive for the class. Maybe it's just not working out. And I talked to Kara, and she says, no. She says, it's fine. Trust me, it's fine. And I'm thinking, whatever, lady. If you say so, we'll stick it out. And I videotaped everything. So now with Facebook on this day, all these videos are starting to resurface of Zachary in the early stages of kinder karate. And it's funny now because he gets the biggest kick out of it, and he cracks up and he's like, I can't believe I did that. Are you sure that's me? I'm like, that was you.
And the funny thing is about Zachary is that now he's moved on from my class, but he comes back. I have a leadership program where my leaders come back and they help with the younger kids. And he's one of the most focused, most disciplined. He's always, yes, ma'am, and he's right on top of it. So, it's one of my proudest journeys for a student to go through. He's an amazing kid.
Yeah, I wouldn't say it's just here that he is like that. Even at home, there's been huge changes with him. If I ask him to do something, I'm not asking him 5 times anymore. I ask him and he goes, yes, ma'am. And he goes and does it. And it's even to the point now where he takes that initiative and goes to the cleaning closet and gets the vacuum and will run the vacuum in his room. So I think he's learned, of course, it's from my parenting too, but I think a lot of it is tools that I've picked up with the class myself. And watching how you are with the kids, because I'm more of a stop doing that. And I've watched how you redirect them and how you talk to them, and I've taken that home with myself. And when I would ask him to do things, if he would put up a little bit of a fight, I would talk to him instead of telling him, you better do this or else. And I don't do that anymore. I found that I talk to him in a different way from watching you.
Oh, that's great, because it's one of my philosophies that's developed is I treat the kids like people. And so many times, and actually this is a chapter that I just finished, it talks about how at that age, every little aspect of their life is so controlled. They're constantly told what to do. Can you imagine somebody telling you every step of every day what you need to do and how you need to do it? So no wonder they freak out sometimes. So what works so well for me in class is that I give them a lot of choices, and I want them to feel like they're in control. And so I think that's being able to take that home. That's great. And that's a goal of mine, is for parents to be able to it doesn't do any good if it only works for me, and then you go home and you're still have a mess. You know? So for that to bleed over into home and then hopefully into school, I hear from a lot of teachers too that they can tell a kid, I call it a kinder karate kid, from the other kids because their maturity is just so different. Do you notice that now? He's 7, right?
He'll be 7 in September.
See, I always think they're older than they are even. But he's other kids his age, when you look and you compare, do you see a difference in maturity?
Oh yeah, even some kids are a little bit older than him too. I definitely think that he is more mature than most kids his age.
And I mean, it's just part of going through a program like this where they're able to make decisions, and I feel like it helps them think critically sooner.
Yeah, he's a big problem solver. So if he's having issues with something, he doesn't run to me. I don't hear, Mom, can you help me? He figures it out. He figures it out. And even with his friends, when him and his friends are having little tiffs, he used to run to me. And every once in a while, he'll come and tattle. And I look at him and I go, what do you think I'm going to say? He goes, figure it out. And I go, yeah, go figure it out,
That's
so
it.
he's really good with problem solving now.
That's awesome. Anything that you would want to tell a parent or?
Oh, yeah.
Journey?
Stick it out. Don't take a break.
Yes.
I watched it even with piano, these kids. And I never really thought about it until we got here. Mm-hmm. And I remember it was probably our second year here, and there was people taking the summer off.
Mm-hmm. We're right at that part right now.
And
Point.
I've watched them come back.
Sometimes.
Yeah, sometimes.
Yeah.
I mean, there was one mom that I got pretty close with, and I was so devastated to find out that she wasn't bringing her son back. Mm-hmm. And I'm thinking, and I think now she brought the littlest one back. She has a younger one, and I think she brought him back to karate, but the other one is doing a sport or something like that. And I'm thinking, that's crazy. You take them out of this. It took all that time for them to adjust and to get used to everybody and to build a bond with the other kids.
Right.
And then you take that away from them for whatever, vacations, or because you want that time with them to relax. But they need to have a life of their own.
Right.
They need to have something that's theirs. And same thing with piano. There's people who take the whole summer off, and I'm thinking, my kid misses a week of practicing. He's shot. It takes him almost a month to get back
There's a rebound
into the
effect.
groove again.
Yeah.
So that's something I would say to parents coming into this, that it's a commitment and it's for your kid. It's beneficial for them, and they learn so much from it. Why would you want to put them in that position of having to readjust and go through it being new again because they took so much time off? I just think it's such a disservice to them.
Well, I think it speaks to mindset too, because there's many parents who feel like this is an activity, Well, I did swimming, we did T-ball, now we're going to do karate, and then we'll move on to, they don't realize that it's a process. And I've really changed the way I even talk about it. Is this is a child development program.
Yeah.
And by program, you should be different coming out than you were going into it, but the longer you stay with it, the more changes you're going to see. And so what would you say if you had advice for parents, because you've been through it, you've stuck with it, what would your biggest advice be to a parent who is either thinking about it or maybe is already in it? What would you say?
I would say don't take a break. There's been times that I've been exhausted and I'm still exhausted, and I do all this running around, but the changes that I have seen in Zachary over the almost 4 years that he's been in the program, I don't want to jeopardize that. Like, I don't want to lose that. And he loves it. Like, of course there's days where he goes, I don't want to go. Can't I just stay home in the air conditioning? I want to play a video game. And I go, no, get in the car. We're going. But once we get there, he's like pumped and he's super excited and he just loves it. And like sometimes, and even me, like, there's a lot of things I don't want to do. There's a lot of times I don't want to go out to dinner with somebody or go to a party, but I do it because I know once I get there, I'm going to be so glad I went, and I would kick myself in the butt if I didn't show up.
Right.
And it's so easy to want to take that break for summer because the kids are out of school and, you know, you can go and do so many different things. That's one day a week for 30 minutes.
It's so easy to fit into your schedule.
Yeah, and I mean, I just wouldn't take a break. I've watched it. I've watched other parents take that break. And the ones that do bring their kids back, they're kind of, I don't want to say lost, but you can see that they don't feel like as confident as they were whenever they were in it the first time.
Well,
you know?
yeah, I mean, there's two things. One is their friends that were there with them, even though we have different belts.
They're advanced.
Yeah, in one class, their friend moved on and now has a different belt. And as a kid, you can't help but feel, oh, you know, like it's kind of like let some air out of the balloon.
Yeah.
But I also say, you know, as a parent too, what are we teaching our kids? Are we teaching them that, you know, this is something you dabble with, and this is, you know, we're not teaching them that there's any value in really staying with somebody and having some mastery at it. Even though it's a foundational program, there's just so much that goes with it as far as development and just the social, the emotional, the mental. I mean, there's so much. We could talk about it all day. But I always say it's like a cake. The longer you bake it, the higher it rises. But imagine if you take a cake out midway.
Yeah.
You know, you can put it back in the oven, but you're going to get a brick. You know? So it's a simple comparison, but it's really true. And coming from a parent who has seen it, she's been here and she's seen what happens. Those who take a break, I'd say 90% don't come back, even though they have the best intentions.
Yeah.
And the ones that do, usually they don't stay because, you know, their kid feels differently, or, you know, you've basically taught your child that, well, this doesn't really have any value because we're going to leave, you know, and maybe we'll come back. So
yeah, this is the first year that we did a sport really since the whole soccer incident, and that kind of left a bad taste in my mouth, and I was like, oh, I'm not ready to do that again. We signed up for T-ball, and I've also watched that happen too, where parents kind of ditch karate for the seasonal sports and football, T-ball, hockey, or whatever.
That's probably the biggest.
Yeah.
Summertime, you know, and because we're a martial arts school, every martial arts school sees that, but summertime is a big time for everything. Soccer, T-ball, swimming, Kennywood, which is our park, our local amusement park, you know.
Yeah.
We hear it all, but
and we have season passes to Kennywood too, but T-ball practice it happened to fall on the night of our karate, and it was from 5 to 5:45, and I had to be out in Pleasant Hills for Ninjability at 6, and we hustled. He was like, we'd pull in, he was changing out a T-ball uniform and putting the karate uniform on, and we were like ready. But it never crossed my mind to be like, well, we're going to take a break for T-ball because this has been such a staple in our lives for 4 years that it's like, this is our norm. We've made this our norm. This is part of our life. And it never even dawned on me to say, well, we're going to take a couple months off, because it's like, what do you mean? What do you mean take a couple months off? Why would you do that? You know, he loves it, you know. I wouldn't want to take that away from him. You know, He enjoys that interaction, and it's a whole different kind of interaction with these kids here. It's not like T-ball where they're messing around and nobody's paying attention, they're drawn in the dirt. Like, here they're focused and they're communicating with one another, and it's like effective communication.
Yeah,
and it's
very
so cool.
structured.
Yeah, it's so cool to see all these little kids having conversations with each other about karate and about their moves and about the terms, and I'm like, my gosh, I don't even know what they mean. Like, I don't know what they're saying, but it's so neat.
And it's happened that there's so many times I forget how young they are.
Yeah.
I do, because
Oh, yeah.
the differences I see and the progress I see and the mental capacity that the kids have. When I look back at some of my first videos when I first started teaching and what I taught, the program has evolved so much. I think my kids today would like devour that stuff.
Yeah.
They'd be like, what's this baby stuff, And but I've had to keep up with what they can handle. And I forget sometimes that these kids are 5 and 6 years old because they're so mature. They're so mature and responsible, and I can give them tasks and they're right on top of it. So I had to start a leadership group because I'm like, I have to do something to take it to the next level, and I'm really glad I did. So I really wanted to share Lori's story because she's kind of the veteran parent from my program, and I give her a lot of respect for her views and sticking it out and really making sure that her son continues to have the best experience he could have. And he's nothing but a joy for me to have around. I'm really glad they've stayed with it. I know there's just more to come because there's always another level. There's always more, and I can't wait to see. We're gonna blink our eyes and he's gonna be a teenager. Can't wait to see what that's gonna bring. So, like I said before, she's seen it all. She's done it all. Her son has been through it all, and I'm really glad that she took this time today. Thank you for letting me do this. I've been asking for a while, and now I had a good reason to do it because we're going to put it in the book. So what I plan to do, there should be a link for you to click on to even see I want to put some of the videos of Zachary and his progression, and you can kind of see some of the changes. So,
and his temper tantrums.
Yeah, and how he's grown now. So you have to have resistance to have change. Yeah. So, it makes for a great story. So thank you for being with us today.
Thank you.
And thanks for watching.
This is what we came here for.